Are you going to Louisiana for the holidays
No,
this
we're
year?
not. Um, we don't normally travel on Thanksgiving. It's like the most heavily, what is it, like the number one holiday,
For
travel
travel, yeah.
holiday, which is weird because America is the only country that celebrates Thanksgiving. Um,
Yeah.
but no, we're not traveling to Louisiana. My sister usually hosts Thanksgiving, and we don't travel too much. We may in the future travel um, to Jamaica at Christmas time, like every other year. We were hoping that his parents were going to come this Christmas, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to. 'Cause it's not easy to just pick up and leave there. You have to have somebody watch your house and do all the things, and it's a whole process. What about you?
I never travel. Like, I don't have family to go see or anything, so
Yeah.
no traveling for me.
That's positive though, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not looking forward to driving up to Tulsa that week. I feel like it's gonna be a nightmare.
I don't know if it'll be too bad, but I do think it is kind of a cool thing to travel for holidays. Like, I think when Rome's older, like, we could do like Christmas in New York or something. Like, I love
Yes.
Christmas in New York, so
We talked about that, like when the kids are older, instead of doing like Christmas gifts, right? Like
do a little
well,
trip.
obviously they'll still get a couple things, but like right now they're little, so it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I want
They like
a baby
stuff.
doll bed or a kitchen or a bike. But then when they get older, it'll be like, hey, wouldn't you rather go skiing
Oh,
or,
yeah.
whatever the experience is they want. Do you want to go to Europe and watch a soccer game? I'm pretty sure Dom would pick that over
He would
anything.
love that. Yes.
If I could ever do that, man, it'll be a fantastic day when I'm able to do that for him.
Yeah.
But
It'll be a
hopefully one day
core
I'll be
memory for him.
yeah, hopefully one day though I'll be traveling to watch him play instead of
Yeah.
take him to watch somebody else.
He's gonna be good.
That's his dream, man. And as your parent, all you do is give them every resource you can possibly muster to help
Mm-hmm.
them reach that. And I feel like that kind of speaks to what we do at the company too. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
pour yourself into every nook and cranny that you can so that all of the people who your company is trying to support has everything that they need to have a fulfilling role and do their
Yeah.
job and feel accomplished at the end of the day. I hope that's how our team feels at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So last time we kind of ventured down a road of we started out talking about difficult decisions, and then we kind of realized that it would be hard to categorize certain things as difficult or not. There's lots of gray, and then there's also lots of opinions on that. What you found as a difficult decision, I found as like meh,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But once you've gotten through the decision making process, well, then there's repercussions of those decisions. Some are positive, some are not so positive, some are downright awful. There's it's a difficult fact of life that I'm currently trying to teach my children is that every choice has a consequence. And I think we were kind of talking about this. I think some people, and I know you think the same thing, some people in leadership roles will choose to stay complacent and not make the decision because they don't want the consequence. But what they're not realizing is there is a consequence. It might be later on, it might be much longer down the road, but staying complacent still produces a consequence.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like everything in life has that. So it's like sometimes I don't know, it's like everything is a risk. And when you're in a position like ours, you put thought and effort and ethics to make sure it's a calculated risk and not just, you know, out of a out of the blue making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to make thoughtful decisions, but sometimes it is better to make decisions before you're ready
Mm.
holding things off by not making decisions, sometimes that is worse than making a decision that you need to make. Even if you're not fully ready, you learn, through making decisions that you'll be ready. Like, you'll figure out how to be ready. You just gotta kind of go sometimes.
Sink or swim.
Yeah.
Sink or swim. Now, I do not advise you to throw your child in the water and say sink or
No.
swim, because I do know people who have learned how to swim that way as a child. Don't advise that. But as a metaphorical example, jumping in before you're ready forces you to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It's also important, like, when you're in that, situation, sometimes you can't avoid a consequence or a negative repercussion, but you can minimize the blast radius, right? Um, for example, if you're in a toxic friendship, right? And you are in this group of friends, but you know this one person is incredibly toxic and it's just really starting to affect you deeper than everybody else. Choosing to stay in the friend group and expose yourself to the toxicity, or choosing to remove yourself from the friend group and maybe only have smaller relationships with different individuals out of that group that don't involve the toxic person, there's consequences to all of that. You're going to miss your group of friends. You're going to miss all the good times. You're going to miss out. You're going to have FOMO if you experience FOMO. I experience FOMO all the time. But is that more detrimental to you than protecting your sanity in terms of dealing with a toxic person face to face all the time? I don't know. Like, you have to make that judgment call when it comes to personal decisions. And what's really important about business decisions is knowing who you're in that pot with to make the decisions together. Or if you're the only one doing it, if you're the business owner and you don't have a leadership team, God bless you, because that is a difficult spot to be in.
Yeah.
But when it's like me and you and we have each other in this pot and we have a couple of other people who kind of dip their toes in here and there, where their input is very valuable when making big decisions, it's learning how to have that give and take, and learning how to do that dance, right?
Yeah. And it's also like, it takes the pressure off of, a singular person when whenever you do, open up and listen to hear what someone else has to say.
Yeah.
They might think of something that you weren't thinking of when you were originally going to go forward and make the decision that you were going to make. If you take the step to listen to someone that you trust and their thoughts and opinions based on their role, then that might cause you to make a different decision, or it might cause you to compromise a bit on your original plan and introduce, another piece of the path forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I only know how we've approached it. And we have definitely done a good job of, one asks the other, what are your thoughts on XYZ? And then, okay, these are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? And then we kind of, go back and forth a bit, especially when it's a big decision, when it's something that could potentially affect multiple people or multiple positions or the company as a whole, those types of things. Like, we've definitely done a good job of pulling other people into that process as well. Like, we have a couple of individuals, like I said, that depending on the decision that we're mulling over, we've pulled a few people in to kind of have conversations. Hasn't always gone to plan, but we have listened to feedback and we have allowed it to guide us in certain respects. Yeah. How do you
There's
know?
also what?
Go ahead. There's also.
Well, I was just going to say, like, whenever you do enter a company and move up in a company, especially as you're promoted and gain more responsibilities, often you're in a position of dealing with decisions that other people made before you. and working through, the aftermath, whether good or bad. I mean, it's like, you get the good with the bad, and the good decisions or the decisions that they made, impact the work that's in front of you and the work that you have to do
Mhm.
now that you're in the role with responsibilities to make decisions.
Right. Well, that's a big deal, though, like you said, dealing with the decisions of others,
Yeah.
whether it be in the past or in your present. Like you're currently in a situation where someone else has an authority to make a decision that now affects you and it dictates now how you need to move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
that can create a whole slew of difficult decisions.
Yeah.
I think the people who struggle with that the most are people in roles that are in middle management. If you have someone that you answer to and then you have people answering to you. I witnessed Dwayne in that situation all the time. He's constantly struggling to hold conversations, and he's trying to understand. He works for a much larger company, and I have visually been able to see how pertinent communication is, and the way you communicate internally has to be so structured. There has to be such strong processes in place the bigger you get. When you don't have those processes in place, it makes communication, everybody doing everything, it's like a bunch of scurrying ants all trying to go in one direction. It doesn't work. And it makes everybody frustrated. But being in a position where you're having to base your decisions off of something somebody else has dictated to you must be done, that's difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult. Even if it is a good decision, right? It's a good decision. It's going to move the company forward, but it's still difficult.
Sometimes a lot of work comes with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, okay, now you have to hold up your end of the deal by keeping this thing going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. I don't know. For me, I have definitely leaned on my strength of structure and organization, because no matter the way I view it, no matter how difficult the situation that I'm in, the more organized I can make it, the easier it is to deal with. Great example, getting my kids out the door for school, right? Some days it's a breeze. Everybody's happy. We're rolling. Everything's good. Some days it's like the world is over and nobody can do anything on time. So how it's unpredictable, right? Every morning is unpredictable. What can I control and put structure to that will make it easier, whether they're being agreeable or disagreeable, right? Is okay, lunches are made the night before. Water bottles are made the night before. Bags are packed. Clothes are laid out. This is what you're wearing. You ain't changing it. Hairstyles are picked. My daughter likes to have fancy braids and ponies and cool things done to her hair. And this morning was a prime example. We did not pick that out last night. And my child takes forever to make a decision on things like that. So she looked at the phone for 30 minutes. And by the time she picked what she wanted, I was like,
we don't have time for that.
I can't see the back of that hairstyle. I don't know what's going on with it. So she went to school looking a little hot mess, in my opinion. She loved it. I was like, not my favorite. You look beautiful, sweetheart, but it's not my favorite hairstyle. We're not doing it again. Yeah. Okay. But we had a meltdown. We had a cry session. Like all of those things slowed us down and caused us issues. Whereas if I would have prepared a little bit better, had a little bit more structure the night before, it would have made the morning a little bit easier. So for me, when I'm faced with situations, what's the goal? What can I put in place to help me achieve that goal? That may not necessarily be things to move me that way, but it's actually going to support me in moving that way. I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend whatever time I need to doing that.
I need to do that.
Which part?
Any preparation the night before, like,
it's so helpful.
Even if I mentally think I'm going to wear that tomorrow, even that helps me, because by the time I wake up, Rome's asking me to open some Halloween candy, and I'm like, I don't know what to wear, and I'm trying on stuff, and I'm like, oh, but I have this meeting today. Like, I
Yeah.
need to wear something nicer. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't like how this looks. And so it just gets frustrating. And then it's 9 p.m. by the time, or 9 a.m. by the time I'm like, oh, it's time to go. It's time to
But
go
not
an
only
hour
that,
ago.
all of those things are decisions, right? We kind of talked about that at the beginning of the last episode. It was like, what's a
Yeah.
difficult decision and what's not, right? And you kind of mentioned about changing your hair. And I was like, I would not find that a difficult decision.
Yeah.
But now you talking about something to wear, your
That's hard for
girl,
me
it's hard for me
sometimes.
too. I
Like,
don't
that's,
want to look like the mom in leggings and a t-shirt every day. I
yeah.
want to look put together, but I also think that for me anyway, style, I'm much older than you. Styles have changed. I like certain styles on other people, but I don't like them on me. And so
Yeah.
finding that style that I like and then trying to buy clothes that kind of fit that style, right? That's a challenge for me. It's a big challenge for me, especially since having kids because your body's never exactly the same afterwards. And your view of yourself is very different also, you know, the
Yeah.
older you get and the kids you have and all that stuff. So that makes the decisions difficult. Whereas for somebody else, I'll just throw that on. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. But setting
Yeah.
things out and preparing for that is big for me too. I do it for myself too. My clothes are laid out in the closet.
That's good.
Um, so those are decisions we make on our own, but bigger decisions that require other people, right? Like for us, the purchasing of equipment that we kind of touched on a little bit. It wasn't necessarily a difficult decision, but it was a decision that required more people involved. We brought in our creative director who had more knowledge on equipment. We brought in the business owner, mostly because he was going to be there, and that type of purchase requires his credit to be involved. Um, and and it is also a decision that he wanted to weigh in on, and we had definitely wanted to give him that space to do so. And because, like you said, that's a $250,000 piece of equipment, not counting all the electrical work that we did to the building and investment that we had to do into
Yeah.
our property and the investment that the electricity provider had to put into our street in order
Yeah.
for our building to retain that level of power, right? There was a lot of outliers that were unexpected. And again, this was a great example. That entire decision that we made, which we knew was the right one to make, and it wasn't difficult to make. There was a lot of things that we didn't know until we knew it.
Yeah.
And now I know exactly how I'm going to handle it next year, 2, 3 years from now, when we buy another piece of equipment. I'm going to be like,
Right.
we're not signing nothing until these things are done, right? And we wouldn't have known that had we not been in that situation. But we had to include a lot of people into the conversation. And now we know next time we need to include more people into that conversation.
Right.
And
Like
one of the
the
challenges is
city, like the city, we
can
didn't
we
even
even do
know.
that?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
good thing we could,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
there.
mean, could you imagine if they would have told us they couldn't put in a new pole? Like,
Right.
to give everybody a little bit of background, we own a building on a piece of property, and there's, you have electrical poles outside your building that run electricity to all the buildings in the area. And the equipment that we chose to buy or that we invested in needed more power coming from the street to the building, which required the electrical company who provides electricity to the area to come out and provide us a new pole with bigger capacity. And that was huge. They could have said, no, we're not doing that. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what tells them they can and can't. I have no
I
idea
don't
anything
know.
about that. But what if they would have said no? We had never thought that we were going to need to consult them on this decision.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And learning how to make big decisions like that with everybody's voice being heard. Luckily, this time around, we were all in agreement that it was the right next step to make. Although I do think that some people may have been worried that I was going to be like, no, we're not doing it. But you know, it was the right decision to make. It really was.
Yeah.
Now, how we handle that decision in the future will be different, but I definitely think I'm a true believer in you have to invest in order to grow. And it was just the time to invest so we could grow.
Yeah.
What about what if you and I would have disagreed? Man, if we would have decided no, and you would have decided yes, and we wouldn't have been able to come to an agreement on it, like that would have caused repercussions.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of other instances where we don't agree on something like right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
but it's never a situation where like we're picking one or the other's
Right.
like way forward. It's usually a situation where part of what I'm saying like should be the path forward and part of what you're saying should be the path forward, and we need to figure out how
Mm-hmm.
to combine
Yeah.
both of our, ideas and figure out the best way. And I honestly feel like it's better that way because it's never a good thing to always just be like my decision is the right one and
That's
that's what
right.
we're going to do. Like I never think that is a good healthy thing because you end up being so close-minded and
Mm-hmm.
so you shut yourself off from what could be really good whenever you think my decision is the only right way, you
It's
know?
true. It's
And I like hearing from people that don't necessarily agree with me because it gives me a new perspective, and maybe, me disagreeing with someone leads to me making a better decision
mm-hmm.
or something that I wouldn't have thought of doing,
Yeah.
or it makes me really uh you know kind of double check myself in terms of like, let me make sure that what I think is the right decision, like I want to feel really solid about it. And sometimes I am like, I
Mm-hmm.
like know what's a good way forward, but it never stops me from, fully shut, I'm never going to shut someone else fully down
Right.
from giving, another idea.
Yeah. For me, I think I had to learn a lot about myself in terms of, well, I'm not going to say I had to learn. I know certain things about myself that I have been able to apply to certain situations in work. I know, for instance, I am not indecisive. I am not an indecisive individual. I know I might not know exactly or what color, but I know that I need to purchase this or do this or this is how we're going to do it, and it's decisive. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you could come in and be like, "Well, did you think about trying it this way?" We're still doing it, but we might try a different route, and yeah, that worked way better, right? So, in certain instances, I am just like you in that respect where I do enjoy hearing people who disagree with me.
Yeah.
I know in certain instances with certain individuals, I tend to have a more emotional reaction to the disagreement if there is one because of the way it's approached or the way it's communicated, but not between you and I. Between
Yeah.
you and I think that we are very respectful to one another. We're very observant to others' emotions, and it's really important that we learn each other and our personalities so that we know how to communicate with each
Yeah.
other. And that's how we've been able to navigate difficult decisions, especially when we have maybe seen the path they are different. Not on, I don't think that we've ever disagreed on major things. It's usually small little things where it's like, well, I think we should do it this way, and I think we
Yeah.
should do it this way, and then we
Yeah.
kind of
And
figure it
sometimes
out.
too, I think whenever you do disagree with someone on a decision you want to make,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it helps you to learn like, I feel really strongly about this, and like I have done my research, and then sometimes it makes you defend your decision even more, which I
Mm-hmm.
don't think is a bad thing either, because as long as it is a respectful dialogue, you're able to kind of show someone like, here's what I'm thinking when I'm saying this. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're dispelling some of their like rebuttals. And if they're disagreeing with your decision, and maybe, sometimes they're like, oh, you're right. Like, that's a solid decision.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it can go, as long as you're open minded, sometimes you're defending the decision and really, you know, feeling confident. And sometimes you're like, oh no, I didn't think of that. Like, I'm going to consider this.
Yes. It all kind of circles back though to everybody has to be on the same page in terms of what are your values?
Yeah. Everyone has
What
to
are
have
your values?
some
Yeah.
respect, you
Yeah.
know.
Because if one person finds it more important to make sure that the operations process is solid for the team to get it done efficiently, but in doing so, they've completely left out um, how the customer views their service or product from beginning to end, right? Like, what's that life cycle look like from the customer's perspective?
Yeah.
And you've got a team of people worrying about one part and a team of people worrying about the other part, but those teams are not coming together to communicate and find that ground that works for both simultaneously. That can cause problems. It can cause rifts. It can cause frustrations. Then you've got customers who are frustrated, and other customers are like, "Oh, I'm fine with it. It's perfect."
Yeah.
It's like marrying the two parts of the business together and making sure three or four or five parts of the business together for businesses that offer more than one service or more than one product or a wide range of things that they're working through. You've got to have the voices in leadership, their capability of bringing people together to make decisions and
Yeah.
not creating friction between them, right? Like that's the challenging part of being in leadership. Yes, Moose, I agree with you. That's Whitney's dog in the background.
Mailman. We don't usually record this late, so forgot about the mail
That's
guy.
all good. We love those pet cameos. Um, yeah. So it's important for your leaders to like work in the same direction. It's okay for leaders to disagree. It's okay for leaders to communicate about disagreements. And it's okay to not see eye to eye on big decisions. But what's not okay is making them anyway without working together through it, right? Like it's all about how you handle it. And again, coming back to those core values, like what are your values? What do you view as the most important part that your business represents? And realizing that sometimes the worst consequences are in complacency and not moving forward with something and understanding how valuable it can be to stand your ground, state your case, and work together. Yeah. Well, if you guys liked hearing about all of our consequences, leave us a review. Tell us what big, difficult decisions you've had to make, whether personal or in your business, and what consequences came from that. What positive things or maybe negative things that happened that you learned from. And share this episode with a friend. Thanks for listening, y'all. Bye.